Willkommen zum letzten Part von Zodiac Trial. Im letzten Part, also im vorigen Part, haben wir das Spiel beendet, haben das echte Ending gefunden und sind damit durch mit dem Spiel. Aber es gibt noch die Interview Rooms. Und da musste ich ein wenig suchen, wie ich die kriege. Ich habe da geguckt, ja. Es ist ganz einfach eigentlich. Ich erkläre es kurz. So. Also, ich gehe kurz rein. Es gibt 5. Einmal Monkey, Rooster, Dog und Pig. So. Bei Monkey musst du das Spiel beenden und alle Endings haben. Also alle 54 Karten sammeln. Man kann ja auch zum Real Ending kommen, ohne die Karten so gesehen. Man muss nicht alle haben. Dann bei Rooster. Da muss man, soweit ich weiß, die richtigen Antworten drücken, wenn man mit den ganzen Charakteren in der zweiten Schule redet. Man konnte ja jedem Charakter eine von 3 Möglichkeiten sagen. Und die richtige bringt euch dann in diesem Raum. Für Dog muss man alle Rätsel in der Schule lösen. Das heißt, es gibt diese kleinen Mini-Rätsel, wie zum Beispiel, wir hatten das mit Pig und Monkey, mit den Känguru-Wörtern oder mit Dog und Bunny, mit dem Auditorium, welches sind wahr, welches sind falsch. Davon müssen alle gelöst werden und dann kommt dieses hier. Und zum Schluss, Pig. Dafür musst du das reale Ende haben, das wirkliche Ende. Das heißt, das Spiel einmal ganz durchspielen und das letzte Ende finden. Also den... Nein! Nein. Upsi. Also den schwarzen Joker, so gesehen. So. Ich würde sagen, wir fangen von... Ich überlege gerade, weil das kommt am Ende erst frei anscheinend. Ich glaube, wir gehen mal von links nach rechts. Also Monkey und dann zu Pig rüber. Oder von Pig zu Monkey. Ich würde sagen von Pig zu Monkey aus dem Grund, weil Monkey für mich interessanter ist gerade. Es kommt Pig.
Whoa, what's going on? I was hacking the computer and I'm back at my home. Wait, who are you? You. My head. It hurts. What's going on? Huh? Okay, cool. Looks like it worked. Hey there, glad I was able to make it. I imagine you might have some questions, yeah? Yeah, that's fair. Okay then, what do you want to ask?
What's going on here?
Well, Pig here is in purgatory, as there are a number of characters who are either dead or near death. But I'm not Pig. I'm the creator of the story you just experienced. And I also wanted to answer some questions about everything. Only problem is, I didn't exactly have a body to edit for the interview. So well, Pig was just sort of sitting here. It's not like she really had a lot of deep revelations to reveal. You could say that this is a bit too meta, and to that I'd ask you how else you handle this. You could also say that this is just stupid, and to that I just sort of shrug. I mean, fair. But buddy here, so...
Can't you get some insight on the story?
You mean right here, all at once? That seems a little tiresome. Okay, how about this? Do you want to be just chime in throughout the story as a sort of commentary track? Of course, if there are still routes you're blind to, maybe think twice about this. It'll have spoilers all over the place.
Ja, warum nicht?
Alright, cool. Consider it done.
Oh, that's cool. What inspired all of this?
If the disjointed nature of all the routes didn't give it away, there was a lot of different inspirations to play. In a sense, all the media I've consumed up until this point had a hand in creating this. But if I had to narrow it down to a few, I'd be remiss to not start off by mentioning the inspiration it took from a certain trilogy of death games. Honestly, a lot of the DNA of various visual novels is incorporated into this game, but that's the most direct inspiration. There was this one show, which I don't think was even that amazing, but it was a Battle Royale based on the Chinese Zodiac animals.
Oh, die kenne ich! Die Serie kenne ich sogar. Ich werde hier ein Bild einfügen von der Serie. Aber die Serie ist echt gut.
I was already interested in them, but that series definitely brought them back to me in mind. Also, the film 12 Angry Men was a big inspiration.
Hi, Emma.
I know that sounds weird, but a big thing is that this Zodiac trial is actually the second version of this story I've done. Originally, it was a short regular novel. It was a lot different from the story. It had a different setting, different game mechanics, a different backing plot, different twists, and mostly different characters. But it had a similar premise, and I thought it was a strong one. When it came on creating a visual novel with a limited number of people and locations, well, I knew adapting that first version of the story could work. And so I did. The original version was a little more streamlined. I think it incorporated all the elements into one story a bit smoother,
But that was a short novel, and this was a big, sprawling visual novel. Overall, I far prefer this version. Okay, what happens next?
I assume you're asking what comes next in the story, right? Well, the thing is, there's no way I'm going to tell you that. I mean, if I did that, there'd be no way to tease for a sequel, huh? And besides that, I don't think you ever really want to hear everything that happens in the character's life after the story ends. Really, I don't want to answer this question at all. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some thoughts on the matter. Like Ox mentioned, Rooster recovered. He's definitely going to jail, going to try and repent. But he's still alive. Mouse is definitely going to keep in touch with some of the members of the Zodiac jury. I mean, how could you not? But it's not like after everything is said and done, Hightower is fixed or anything. It's a broken city, and these events were the start of a change, not the end of it. There are definitely a few loose ends in the story as is, and I think it'd be wishful thinking to assume Mouse's troubles are over, regardless of what she did with the flash drive. But I think that's all I say on the matter.
Okay, what should I take from all of this?
I don't know, whatever you want to take from it. Death of the author and what you have. I'm a little unclear about what the question even means. Are you asking me to try and spell out the moral of the story? Because I don't really want to do that. I don't even think the story has a moral. At least, not an explicit one. And whatever's there, I want people to take it their own way. You know, in the original Zodiac trial, I made a big point to give all characters a case against them and a defense. I explicitly wanted to leave it open to the reader's opinion, who was worse than who was more culpable and who even the mastermind could be argued in favor of. Now, in this version of the story, I'm a little less inclined to treat all characters equally. If you think Mouse, Bunny, and Monkey all have equal levels of culpability, well, that's certainly not what I was going for. But I still think there's a lot of room for interpretation of the story, about a lot of things. Ultimately, take what you want from all of this. If you want a fun story with puzzles and mystery cases, I hope you enjoyed the tricks and riddles spread throughout the game. If you were looking for an interesting character study, I hope everyone's backstories and interactions gave you enough. If you were looking for a serious tale with themes of free will or justice, I hope there was enough content of that nature for you to chew on. If nothing else, I hope you found something worthwhile in all of this.
How do I unlock the other interviews?
The other interviews, huh? Let's see. Well, Dog's always been a sucker for games, but also puzzles. If you get all the puzzles found in the tales correct, he's sure to talk. You need everything, Rooster does really care. If you give everyone a happy ending, or at least give a happy ending to everyone who can get one, he's sure to appear. Then there's Monkey. She's partial to those who imitate her in some way. If you run through all the possibilities, just like her, collect the full deck, she's bound to have something to say. If you talk to those three, there's one more person who you should probably speak with. They're the final unlock. Oh, but actually, between you and me, if you talk to everyone, there's a chance you can listen in on someone else. Someone not really a part of the story. But it's only possible to those who haven't received help. It's possible that that option's already gone for good. And if that's right, don't feel too bad. That one's really not someone you need to be listening to. So yeah, there are some tips.
No more questions. Ich glaube, das war's hier. Aber cool. Ich mag, dass man jetzt mit dem Creator der Story selbst reden kann ein bisschen und ein bisschen Insight kriegt darüber.
See you around.
Okay, das war also Pig. Dog. Ah, sein Keller. Well, this is unexpected. Alright. What's going on? Questions? I'm the one supposed to be answering the questions? Feel like I've got a couple questions myself. I'm not that being the principal one. But, you know, whatever. Screw it. Ask away.
Why'd you even ever become friends with Oliver?
I don't know. On the Force, there weren't a lot of good options. He seemed decent enough. Could play cards, went drinking with me. Funny enough. Nice enough. Good with the conversation. If I had some dramatic story about our bond, how about he saved my life in the line of duty? Well, maybe it would have made my actions more understandable. But nah, we really just hung out because we worked together. Furious of that, you start calling yourselves friends.
Do you regret not doing anything about all of this for so long?
If you have to ask someone if they regret something, the answer is usually yes. Doubly so if the person you're asking is dead. Triply so if the person you're asking is murdered. And if they were murdered for something relating to said mistakes, then 100 times yes, they regret it. If you want to know why I didn't do anything for so long, I guess I'd chalk it up to a sense of helplessness. By the time I really got the full picture of everything, I was a washed up drunk who ran a bar. Not exactly the type to have a lot of influence in any real way. Even knowing the situation, it's not like I knew how to stop it. I didn't know what to do. And I knew that whatever I should do, I probably couldn't. I'd go against my friend, Oliver. Not that I was overly loyal to him. But more importantly, unnecessary meddling could easily get me killed. Well, I ended up getting killed regardless, so... Anyways, it wasn't the right approach, I knew that. But if Oliver had a sin of envy, mine was a sin of sloth. It wasn't until Brian, with his sin of wrath, made a move that I decided to get off my ass and do something.
Did anything specific make you quit the police?
Nope. I mean, I could tell you the story of the case that broke the camel's back. It was an awfully sordid affair. Involved a money laundering scheme and this girl with white hair. To be honest, some parts of that case still confuse me. But to emphasize that one would be missing the point entirely. The thing that got me, the thing that always gets people is never one incident. It's a constant incidents, piling up one after another. It's too much to take. It wasn't some moral stance. It wasn't a practical measure. I was just tired, and tending bar was easier.
Are you upset at how everything played out? Er ist tot. Ich denke mal ja.
Where exactly do you get off asking a dead person something like that? Yeah, seeing as my head's currently filled with lead, I'm not thrilled. I mean, I make jokes and all, but at the end of the day, I still prefer to be alive. But that's life, I suppose. If my interference helped shake things up, even somewhat, well, then I guess it's fine.
Is there anything you never got a chance to say?
I mean, there's plenty of things I never get to say, but nothing profound or anything like that. If anything, I'd apologize to Brian, maybe. Tell off Oliver. Say a couple goodbyes. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Any advice?
You're asking me for advice? Wow. I don't even have something funny lined up for that. All I can say is to learn a little something from me. I did nothing for a long time, and things got bad. Then I did something, and I died. Both of those outcomes kinda suck. But which one's cooler? Yeah, think about it more. I'm satisfied with how I went out. I made an impact. You should try to as well.
Aw. No more questions, dankeschön.
Later. Das war Dog. Dog ist cool. Ich mag Dog. Rooster! Stream again, huh? It'll let me fully wake up or die. But keeping me in this limbo is just lame. Well, no use beating around the bush, I guess. Hi there, it's me, Rooster. You're here for the interview, I presume?
How did you get into acting?
How most people get into acting. I saw actors on the television and just wanted to emulate them. It seemed like a fun job, a dream job. It's like any job you want to have as a kid, just like becoming a pop star or an astronaut. Only difference, I suppose, is that I never grew out of it. Whether you want to chalk it up to naivety, stubbornness, or determination depends on how much credit you're willing to give me. To be fair, I clearly was up to the challenge. I was always a performer. I love making people react how I wanted them to. I also learned how to lie at a young age, which helped. My parents were more than willing to sign me up for acting lessons, and I was good at it. I killed school plays, improv clubs, I even made very high quality home videos. Also, if I'm being honest, I'm not exactly dumb. I certainly didn't do good in school. So in a sense, it felt like acting was my only way forwards. And I had no reason to believe that it wouldn't work. After all, I'd never really been faced with any real sense of adversity before in my life. Things will just continue to work out. Until that one argument. With total honesty, how was your career going? I helped myself, sure, but I definitely was on the right track. To be clear, there was a real rough stretch in my life after I got cut off by my parents. Took a lot of odd jobs I might have considered beneath me. Really douchey way of viewing things, huh? Yeah, well, it was what it was. Eventually, though, I was able to get onto my feet. Land a couple of commercials. Small time shit, but even that was huge for me. At the time, I was also working with a bunch of people I met in film school. I encouraged them to make their own projects, and I did starring roles in them. The films themselves didn't do entirely well, critically or commercially. However, my performance was legitimately praised. It's not a lot I pride myself on, but I'm a good actor. Don't get it twisted. I had enough heat to start landing minor roles in actual shows. I even got to be a minor character in a pretty big movie. I was on my way up before I got in my own way. But you know, I've never been the patient type. In your own words, what happened with Amadeus Bowen? Amadeus Bowen? That bastard. The first time I met with him, it was under the pretense of asking for a product placement deal in one of the smaller films I worked on. And even if I didn't already know what I knew, I would have written him off as an asshole. He spoke with an overwhelming sense of smugness, entitlement. The worst part about it was that he seemed charming at first. Behind closed doors, he was a survey, funny, affable fellow. He treated me very kindly at first. But after negotiations began, after he completely wrote off my offer, my use, he stopped trying to hide the sense of superiority he felt. I became obsessed with the man. Online, I dug deep, found countless horror stories of his sins. Some of them, maybe most of them, I were probably made up, but I just wasn't seeing that at the time. Far more concentrated was the research I did on him. The private investigators I spent to dig around. The man hid his tracks well. I tell you that, but I had some backdoor savings I had kept ever since I was cut off, to be used at my lowest low point. To me, researching Amadeus was a worthwhile way to spend that money. You get a good guy from outside Hightower. Give them time, give them some leads, and they'll get quite a bit. Not enough to go to the court, barely enough to go to the press, but enough to fit what I knew. I don't know when I decided to murder him. It began as my personal investigation of him. The next step. It was paramount to stalking. At some point, I saw a perfect opportunity coming up. And by the time I followed him in an errand to the bar, I felt like I couldn't turn back.
How did the Zodiac trial plan come about?
It wasn't about boosting my career. I wanted to be clear. I could have met on my own. Hey, you know those shows where some plucky teenager, maybe a group of teenagers, they're faced with some horrible secret? Usually it's something they did, something they're responsible for. And then for a number of episodes it creates drama, you know? Well, the secret come out. And almost invariably, unless you're in a certain genre, the secret will be exposed, and there will be fallout. You know when that happens? It's because the writers want to give those teens good endings. You know what the true curse is? It's not getting your comeuppance. It's having to live waiting for the other shoe to drop. Humans are great at adaptation. With most things, enough time passes, you forgot about it. You live with it. But if you do what I did, commit a murder, conspiracy on a high-profile person like Amadeus, and get someone else executed for it. Another day went by, not even a couple of hours, where a pang of fear then randomly clutched at my heart. I was constantly reminded how fragile my existence was. At any moment, it could all come tumbling down. It was maddening. I was going insane behind that secret. And when I thought of the person who saw me right in the act of stealing the cart, the kid who knew something was wrong, the man who was one more detailed testimony from cracking open my plan. You should know, once you kill one person, you're no longer a person, you're a killer. And you can kill again. Murder unlocks options in your brain. When you have hammer, everything looks like a nail. And you know who's gonna miss some criminal leading a violent gang? An old man who's got but so many years after. You mean, who's got but so many years left? An unhinged teen who was already off the deep end. These people seemed... I don't know why I'm still trying to justify myself. Why are you even asking this question? Next one, please. Why didn't you get exploded when you failed to input your action in round 3? Oh, that. Wait, why didn't I? Now that you mention it, that's definitely strange. The whole thing was automated, so maybe Monkey really cared about me and never armed my bomb, because she never intended to kill me. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm remembering now. It's what thanks to yours truly. See, I actually helped design those contraptions before the whole kidnapping thing. Monkey told me they were for dealing with the getaways. Because of that, I knew how to safely disarm them, and so when I had some time to myself in round 1, I did that promptly. Smart, right? What do you think is going to happen next? I mean, if I wake up, I could try and fight the legal troubles. I probably do quite well. The first death game was medically crafted. Brian did 90% of it all, and proving my involvement in any way would be near impossible. The only testimony against me comes from a totally unreliable witness, who, by the by, is dead now. The second death Ames actually didn't have anything to do with. Oh ja, ja, stimmt ja. Das zweite war gar nicht seine Idee. I actually didn't have anything to do with. Monkey's death is legitimate self-defense, not just for me, but for Mouse and the whole group. No one could fight that. Helmet used Bond's murder. The recovered knife with my blood on it isn't great, I have to admit. But you know, with how corrupted everything around that whole class is. The case is good luck, finding a court willing to convict me without everything being blown up. Regardless of how the wind blows, the infection in the city is sure to be burned away. With that gone, I could easily call for a mistrial, and probably succeed. So really, I'm kind of home free. But nah, I don't think that's the route I'm taking. Even if I don't get convicted, my life would be over if I wake up. And I've already had my share of hiding secrets, of acting 24/7. It'd be best for everyone if I just fessed up and played the repentant sinner. Do you regret anything? Are you kidding? I regret a whole hell of a lot. I regret getting into a fight I did with my parents. I regret getting involved with Amadeus Bowen. I regret getting involved with Monkey. I regret getting manipulated by her. I regret letting the Zodiac trial plan get as far as it did. I regret going along with it once it was in motion. I regret profiting from it when it was over. I regret allowing Monkey to clean up after everything. Essentially signed the death warrant of Mouse, Snake, Dragon, and Dog. I regret not immediately outing Monkey when the second death game began. But you know what? My two biggest sins? 2 people I actually killed with my own hands. I don't think I regret either one of those. Ah ja, ist fair. No more questions. Let's talk again soon. Und jetzt zur Verrückten selber. Monkey!
Oh, well, isn't this quite fascinating? So, is this hell? I can imagine it to be heaven. But no, this doesn't seem hellish enough to either. Purgatory then. Then are you here to judge my sins? To ask me some questions? I can imagine you'll find my answers satisfactory. Still, you have my attention.
Did you ever genuinely like Rooster?
As much as I could genuinely like somebody, yes, I did. I mean, what wasn't to like? He helped me out when I was at a low point in life. He's reasonably good looking. He's charming in a dumb sort of way. He was genuinely caring when we were together. And he's quite talented. What's not to like? In earnest, this was a case where the problem wasn't with him, but with me. I mean, why do you think I helped host the Zodiac trial in the first place? Despite how I may have come across, I'm not a complete sadist. And if I was, there's certainly more practical ways to achieve such ends. Admittedly, I pushed both Brian and Rooster towards their conclusion. Admittedly, this wasn't the most necessary way to achieve our ends. But it really was motivated deep down by a desire to help Rooster. No, help is too kind of a word. I was viewing Rooster as a lifelong partner. In that context, it would be adventurous to deal with his problems and to boost his career. Rooster might think things wouldn't work out without my involvement, but that's naive. The world rarely rewards talent. You need luck. And in the absence of luck, you need cruelty. Oliver Bowens was still investigating his brother's death. Brian was investigating his father's case. As far as Roosters knew, both Dragon and Snake had testimonies that could hang him. And his was moving nowhere fast. With a single plan, the 3 figures who could go against him were taken care of. The police had to double down on their past conclusion, and Rooster was primed for stardom. You might think the plan too extreme, but this was something set to fix Rooster's life in a single sweep. To fix our life, you think the plan ought to be extreme, no?
What was your relationship with Mouse generally like?
I admired her, I truly did. She was a quite remarkable woman. Very intelligent, quite self-aware, charming, More than anything, I felt some sense of camaraderie.
Camaraderie? Kameradschaft auf Deutsch.
With her. Like me, she was able to shut out her emotions. Don't get me wrong, our conditions were nothing alike. But still, it was more of a connection than I had with most people. I regret putting her through everything. But, well, it was inevitable. I was working on a death game with one client. I needed ways to mitigate personal suspicion. I just so happened to have another client with clear ties to the first client. Someone who could plausibly be another target. Someone who indicated all the traits those susceptible to hypnosis possess. You couldn't expect me not to make use of the situation. We tantamount to denying fact. How did you get Brian to go along with the plan? People are really simple. It didn't take much time. It didn't take much to get him dancing at my pace. So long as I took my time, I could push him to anything. It helped that he was already predisposed to come up with something like the Zodiac trial. He was motivated, unhinged, intelligent, and vengeful. The perfect combination. So then, a careful drip feed of information. Long conversations, careful to implant that he couldn't let my involvement get out of any way. And once I had successfully sold him on the conspiracy, the slight offering of a solution, making sure he knew I was on his side. The trick was suggesting the premise before he was ready to act on it. But after he would no longer tell anybody, I had suggested it. But reading his progress wasn't hard. Once he came on board, he actually became harder to control. When discussing the plan, he got all these unnecessary ideas, additional rules, making my demon's job harder and harder. Overly convoluting a plan, I wonder where he got that from. Anyways, to make it incredibly simple, Brian was a lonely, pathetic, broken kid. He didn't have directions. He didn't have a place to turn to. I became his friend. Then, I became his confidant. And once I was his confidant, the one he trusted above everyone else, it was a one-player game. And it was just a matter of time before I had my way.
Why host a second game?
I'd be making an assumption. You like Rooster. Believe I was unnecessary in my actions. Perhaps I indulged myself a bit too much, particularly towards the ends. But my actions were not without thought. As I explained at the time, my life of control was dependent on getting rid of loose ends. Simply put, all 11 of them had to be dealt with. Dealing with them individually would be too much of a hassle, and something augmented like bombing would lead to more scrutiny. It would lead to my personal survival being a question. Blaming it on a second death game hosted by a deranged follower of mine was well within the scope of Oliver's influence, and it gave me an out. I'd simply need to claim that the game was cutthroat, and at the last moment I prioritized my own survival over someone else who tried to win alone. I'd be repentant, an unwilling murderer, and many would malign me. But most would be sensible enough to recognize me as a victim, forced to act by another true villain. Though Oliver and his pawns could control much, for things to be reliable, I need to make the eventual job as easy as possible. And so, I need the death game to be realistic. I need the computers coded, I need the bomb set, and while it may have been unnecessary to allow things to go on as long as they did, evidence that people had been participating in this death game would certainly help. My mistake was murdering Pig. The moment I saw her trying to hack the computer, I should have pulled out the control phone and blown everyone besides myself up. I had to pinpoint it. That was the exact moment I got lost in playing my games. But can you really blame me? It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and if anything went wrong, I was a button press away from solving everything. Letting my guard down was inevitable. What were your plans with the flash drive? But who's to say? As much as I teased the thought, I highly doubt I would have done anything remotely as bad as a death game again. While I like to have my fun, I was motivated by quite rational reasoning. Point of order, abusing the flash drive too much would inevitably lead to my downfall. Simply extorting money would probably be enough. I could live comfortably with freedom, with control. And if I did borrow, and if I did borrow things, plenty of ways to get for the rich to entertain themselves that don't stoop to such crassness. Really, I was a step away from good ending.
What are your thoughts on how everything's played out?
Well, as you can imagine, I'm none too pleased with everything. I passed away far too young. I could have lived a long, happy life. Especially if I had that flash drive. What bothers me the most, I suppose, is that I shall be viewed as some evil monster when all is said and done.
When all is said and done.
Not because of my actions, but because of my motivations. If I organized the first death game not for my own reasons, but because I was head over heels within my true love and would do anything for him, would that be better? Had I killed dog from some place of righteous vengeance, having become fed up with injustice, would I merit sympathy? If every detail of the second death game was purely motivated by what would personally benefit me the most, it would be cold-blooded and calculating, but somewhat understandable. But as it stands, I wasn't just evil. I was crazy evil. Tell me, is that a fair way to view things? If you ask me, the man motivated by a petty sense of vengeance, the woman motivated by pure love, they are far more villainous. They clearly possess the ability to do good or evil, and yet they fall to evil. But for someone like me, even if I can comprehend morality as a matter of fact, I could never really feel it. In that sense, isn't it far more justifiable that I do such reprehensible acts? No. No excuses. Truth is, there are tons of topical people in the world. 99.9999% of them live well, adjusted, decent lives. This is not an issue of how my brain works. I guess I'm just a bad person, huh? An odd revelation to come so late. Had I come to this conclusion earlier, would anything have changed? I'm curious.
No more questions. Ja, bringt die Gefangene raus.
I hope I answered your queries to your satisfaction.
Jetzt der letzte Raum. Oh! Kriegen wir jetzt Brian? Welcome. I am the Jade Emperor. No, that's not right.
Hi, I'm Brian. I've been stuck here, tied to this chair, watching everything unfold on those screens. I guess it's a sort of hell. But now the screens have turned black, and you're here. Guess that means you're here to talk to me wherever I'm not supposed to go. Questions? I mean, sure, if you want. Can't promise you'll like my answers, though.
What was Aaron Morris like?
You want to know what my father was like? That's pretty cruel. For the record, he was really great. Don't just take my word for it. Most would agree. Yeah, I won't work. He might not have been the most pleasant. How could you with that sort of job? But he was a good dad as I could ask for. He always made time for me. He helped me when I was feeling down. He gave me good advice. Pampered me. He was like a friend to me, more than just a parent. More than anything, he had integrity. He wasn't the type to back down from a fight. Could have taken the plea deal, you know. But he didn't. Because he was innocent. I remember so vividly back when his trial was raging. The things said about him on the news, online, they were just objectively wrong. They made him out to be a bad person, when there couldn't be farther from the case. I think that's what really cemented my belief in how wrong everything was. The world I saw around me was just upside down from my own reality. And I refused to believe that I was the one in the wrong.
What's with the butterfly tattoo?
It's the question why I have a butterfly tattoo, or why I have a tattoo at all. To answer the second question, I was feeling particularly rebellious and had some change in my pocket. To answer the former, I've always been fascinated by the butterfly effect.
Hab ich mir gedacht.
I'd explain it, but come on, you know what the butterfly effect is. The idea that such minor decisions could ripple into world-altering events. It's both empowering and frightening. It's oddly beautiful. So, if I was going to get a tattoo, I thought a butterfly would be a nice image. There's really not a lot more to it beyond that.
How did you come around to hosting Zodiac trial? It's simple, really. I became obsessed with the darkness of Hightower, and it enveloped everything else, which, to be clear, wasn't hard. I never did really good in school. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any passions or desires, no idea what I wanted to do with my life. After everything that happened, it's not like our family could afford a fancy college or really anything. Looking towards the future, there was nothing to reach for. All I saw ahead of me was emptiness. In the face of that, when confronted with something that seemed to me like such a huge problem, such a huge injustice, it seemed reasonable to spend all I had to at least accomplish one meaningful thing. I never made it clear in the game, and I was killed before I could explain myself further. But it wasn't actually about vengeance. I mean, it was partially about that, for sure. Everyone who I planned to put through the ringer deserved it. But I designed everything so that any reasonable group should be able to get out through it with everybody alive. So long as nobody acted incredibly selfish or hateful or stupid, there was an out for everybody. My actual motivation was to find the truth. See, I had microphones installed in the naked devices. By gathering so many people involved with this corruption case, making it clear why they were gathered, and forcing them to both compete and cooperate, well, I figured it was the perfect situation. They were bound to let the truth come free. If I made it clear that that was what I was going for, well, I'd never get anywhere. But in the darkness of all the game mechanics and competition and whatnot, and with the mind very fixed on the event, maybe it was naive, but I hoped I'd be able to reach the truth. A truth. That's all very noble sounding. I'm not that noble. It was also about vengeance.
How did you actually set everything up?
In a word, dedication. Our family wasn't rich, but if you're not looking for the future, you can amass funds pretty easily. Just sell a lot. The hardest part by far was creating the neck devices. But there was a metal workshop not far from my house that was willing to let me work on projects with a fair amount of discretion. Actually, getting the mechanics to work took the longest time. But it's the age of the internet. If you're clever enough, dedicated enough, and look online a lot, you can figure out how to do pretty much anything. And it's not like they were particularly sophisticated designs. Once I designed one, it was all downhill from there. Programming the tablets, the phones, the operating system, that was all child's play in comparison. I knocked that out in a 3-day weekend. In terms of setting everything up, I did my research on the school ahead of time. Figured out how to get in ahead of time. Figured out what I need to set up. Getting a hold of the weapons was painfully easy. Really should have been harder than it was. And kidnapping as many people as I did. If you do your research, turns out most people aren't prepared to be kidnapped. The thing about kidnapping is that usually the hard part is to do it when you're not caught. But I knew one way or another, my identity would be getting out when all was said and done. And the game would take place not long after I kidnapped everyone, so I didn't need to buy that much time. All in all, it was totally achievable. Took a lot of time, a lot of money. But it's a death game, you know. It's not like it'd be easy. Honestly, the fact that I was able to do it all by myself pretty impressive, at least I think.
Why did you select who you selected for the trial?
Obviously, I need to select people worthy of punishment, but if the plan was to work, I needed people of various levels of involvement with the conspiracy. If people were too on the same page, there wouldn't be enough conflict, and the truth might not come out. So my selections were all well thought out. The mouse was supposed to be Richard Brill, the judge behind the case. His decision in my father's trial were so inept that he was either deeply corrupt or terminally stupid. Either way, he had earned his place. Alex was a prosecutor who I had every right to believe was in on the conspiracy. He was the one most responsible for my father's death. The choice of Tiger was a bit off the wall. but I think it was inspired. Not only was her testimony, the one about my father holding the weapon, clearly bullshit, but she had an interesting history. She was unstable, dangerous, having killed her mother, but then she got away scot-free, probably by abusing the same system that killed my dad. Yeah, she was a good choice. Bunny I felt no sympathy towards. I couldn't tell how much he was involved, but he had killed an innocent nonetheless, and that was good enough for me. A dragon was supposed to be Oliver Bowen. His spot on my list should be obvious. Then Snake was supposed to be Anna Red. Look at her history, and she's done a ton of shady shit in the copyright world, so there's just cause for throwing her in. She was also close with Amadeus, so she could possibly spill some info. Halls was a pick I wasn't sure about, but I thought he might stir things up. His past was definitely fucked up enough to warrant throwing him in the death game. He also was contracted by Amadeus, so I thought he might spill some info in the heat of things. Sheep was a pure revenge pick. She was the one who threw my father under the bus. She was a coward. She was pathetic. She was also Amadeus' secretary, and the one with a lot of opportunity to do any number of things. I wasn't sure if she was the real killer and accomplice, or if she was involved in some way, or even if she wasn't involved in any way. But I had no hesitation with throwing her in. The monkey was supposed to be chief prosecutor. If Ox wasn't corrupted, she certainly was. If she wasn't corrupted, Ox was. But most likely they were both in on it. The Rooster was going to be the head of the newspaper company. They'd be put in for the same reason I put in Pig. They were a tool used to slander and kill an innocent man. They deserve punishment, but they were one of the ones more likely to break rank and say something she shouldn't. Finally, there's Dog. Wasn't sure about Dog, but I knew he knew more than he ever let on, and that alone was enough for a sin for me. Who knows? If he ever decided to sit down with me to really talk things out and explain everything from his point of view, things could have played out very differently. Ah, okay. Und wen hat... Hä? Und was mit Pig? Also Pig wäre so drin gewesen, oder wie? What are your thoughts on how everything played out? There's a lot of regret, obviously. Looking back on it now, I'm pretty sad I died. That part was very unnecessary. I feel stupid, looking at how Monkey used me. I feel stupid that Rooster, my main target, was never even suspicious of. I feel bad that I got so many innocent people involved. Dog and Pig both died. And while I hold a contempt for both of them, I can see now that neither of them probably deserved that. So yeah, things didn't go perfectly. But you know, I was right. Because of me, Monkey's dead. Rooster's caught. My house on fire, and my father's name is being cleared. And really, that's just what I wanted. Could things have gone better? Sure. But to complain too much would just be whiny. I got what I wanted. That's good enough for me. No more questions. Aber interessant, dass wir einen Insight kriegen in den Jade Emperor, also Brian. Das finde ich cool. So, is this finally the end? Oh boy. Anscheinend schon. Es gibt anscheinend noch einen Raum, den ich nicht gefunden habe, weil ich Hilfe brauchte im letzten Rätsel. Aber naja. Haben wir nicht ändern. Nee, aber anscheinend ist es eh nicht wichtig. Aber ich werde jetzt gucken, was passiert, wenn ich jetzt hier was mache. Weil sie meint hier irgendwie... Wo ist das nochmal? Zurück ins Menü. Nein, nein! Falscher Charakter. Ich bin zu big. Da. Da. Turn on Narrator's Commentary. Okay. Das heißt, jetzt kann ich in dieses Abenteuer reingehen und irgendwas passieren? Oh!
Hello there, it's me, the author of the Zodiac trial, here for some sick narrator's commentary. I don't know if anyone will really want this feature, but if you do, here you go. I'll be popping in occasionally to give some insider info of this whole story. Starting with this scene. This was in fact the first scene written, a dialogue between the game's two main antagonists, Monkey and Rooster. Well, I'd argue technically in the context of the story, the two main antagonists would be Monkey and Brian, but I digress. Anyways, This bit sets up a lot of the themes that just the story was built off, so it does serve slightly more of a purpose than just an ominous prologue. Also, fun facts, the cards used for that one background are comically oversized. Fun.
Oh, stimmt. Rot und grün.
I think the decision to just drop the player right now into the death game was good. Why waste time with pointless backstory? Let's get to the good stuff. Aber ich mag, even though there's not really a mechanical repercussion for this, the pairs everyone broke up in is really how I think the characters in my head. Those are the groupings to me. Starting Mouse off with Ox, the most straightforward character of the bunch, hopefully sets him as something of a partner figure to player's eyes. At least that was the intent. It looked to be much the style of mine. This section right here is to ease people into the idea of choice. A little silly, I know, but slow steps are important. That said, I think it might give off the wrong idea that the choice don't matter. But it got in the game, so it stays.
Ich mache nur ein paar Sachen davon, dann bin ich auf hier durch schon. Ich will mal zu den anderen Charakteren kommen, deswegen.
Here we meet Bunny and Tiger. Both of these characters ended up a lot differently than how I had originally envisioned them. Tiger was originally going to be a lot more combative before I leaned more into the optimistic gimmick with her. And Bunny wasn't originally going to be as big of an asshole as he ended up, but after making him an asshole in one of the routes, I figured it'd make a lot more sense to lean into that. The decision was for the best, I think, for the story, themes, etc. to work. I think you need one hidden pure asshole in the group, and if you're Bunny as that asshole. Here we come to Snake and Dragon. These two I feel in a lot of ways are the pillar stones of the case. Not that they always take the leading roles, or are the most important or whatever, but like in filling out the cast, these two archetypes were the first ones I wrote in. I knew I wanted this suspicious, intelligent guy who let me go on a bunch of tangents. And I knew I wanted this shit stirrer who didn't play nice, but ultimately was one of the better people in the group. And incidentally, these two ended up being some of my favorite characters in the whole game. Alright, honesty time. I think Horse and Sheep are two of the weaker characters in the game. That's fine. The game needs weak characters. In fact, I think Horse accomplishes what he sets out to be. With 12 characters, they're not all going to get equal development. He's a mostly silent threat, who actually has a lot of thought behind his actions, even if he doesn't say all of it. I think he fulfilled this role decently. I feel more disappointed in how Sheep came out. Like, yeah, I think she has a lot of good moments, good elements. I just think I could have done more with her character. It doesn't help that her route is, in my opinion, one of the weaker ones in the game.
Ja, das stimmt leider.
But more on that when we get there.
Okay.
And here we go. The villain duo. These two are opposites in a lot of ways. Rooster was probably my favorite character to write, and maybe my favorite character period. He steers a lot of these scenes he's prominently in. Monkey, on the other hand, blends into the background a lot, and for a lot of the game is probably viewed as the least impactful character. Initially, I didn't want to fall into the trope of the mastermind being the least interesting character. But whoops! Either way, the two of masterminds are both big characters in their own right, and I've got a lot to say about them, each of them.
Which I recognize. Hey!
I found a comment on one of my planning documents. All it read was, "They're a therapist." Great joke. I never end up following through on this great joke. Missed opportunity, I guess. Finally, we got Dog and Pig. A friend of mine called Dog this game's sans, and I can't describe to you how much it hit my soul. Possibly because I can very much see where they come from. Anyway, these are the two innocent casualties of everything. They're both pretty interesting characters, and ones that provoking strong reactions. I can see people really liking or really disliking either of them, and I think either reaction's fair. Personally, I really love Dog, and quite like Pig, even though in a lot of ways they both suck. This section was just to give player the first taste of choice. Who you talk to largely doesn't affect things, aside from unlocking some optional dialogue on some routes.
Ah, das ist cool. Okay, ich würde sagen, hier beenden wir den Part aber schon mal. Denn man kann das Spiel also mal durchspielen mit Ist es für alle freigeschaltet? Also kann ich auf meine alten zurückgehen? Wartet, das gucke ich noch kurz nach. Kann ich auch jetzt zum Beispiel hierhin zurückgehen? Einfach irgendwo rein? Ich gehe jetzt mal in das eine Ending von Monkey. Ja. Ne, war nicht das da. Was? Ja!
Obviously, I'm not going to reveal a traitor on this route. Are you crazy? This whole route is sort of a big reference to the other places. I was quite tempted to lock this route behind something that would make it harder to see, because running into it very late makes it more effective in my opinion. Ultimately, I changed my mind though. Anyways, this whole scene refers to the Tiger route. The lying witness about being hit in the back of the head, walking in on Tiger, and a separate victim in the presence of a pen, crushed windpipe, someone beaten. It's not direct, but it rhymes, so to speak. And one of the features I like about this route is how frantic it is. You really get the sense when running from one place to place for how desperate Mouse is to keep everything from falling apart. But
okay.
I figured having Rooster kill Ox without a clear motive was fine, since how close in proximity this route is to Roster's route. It's likely either someone's already seen that route or they see it soon. Next. Of course, as you know now, this is not a reference to Rooster's eventful fate.
Ah, okay.
Mouse's decision here is not great. But hey, give her some credit. After this sequence of events, everything happening so quickly, would you know what the right move is? Again, Snake and Dragon's fate mirrors the fates from the true end. The true case behind these deaths is the same in both cases.
Ah, nein, ich wollte zurück. Ah, ich wollte mal gucken, was passiert, wenn sie ihren Psychomos macht. Oh, die Dose weiß ich gar nicht mehr hier. Warte, ich muss gucken, wer es ist. Verdammt! Ich bin wieder reingefallen. Wrong. Cheap.
In general, this route can leave a lot of questions in the air. That's intentional, I'd say. Oh. Unsolved mystery. This might be too obscure for people to easily get, but the intended answer for this lies in who tied Monkey up. Rooster, acting as Monkey's partner, smuggled her a bladed instrument when he tied her up. Just as a precaution, of course.
Ah, okay. Okay, das wollte ich nur mal kurz wissen. Wie ist sie gekommen? Jetzt weiß ich es. Okay, das war's auch für dieses Projekt. Ich bin durch. Ich habe alles gesehen, alles Wichtige gesehen, alle Wege gemacht, alle Interviews geführt und wir haben alles am Ende durchgemacht. Hier nochmal die Karten, wunderschön. Das heißt, das Projekt ist jetzt offiziell beendet, aber nicht traurig sein. Ich werde bald mit einem weiteren Visual Novel anfangen, weil ich liebe Visual Novels. Es wird vielleicht wieder so etwas sein oder was anderes, wir werden sehen. Ich wünsche aber euch noch einen schönen Tag, schönen Abend, schöne Nacht, was auch immer ihr macht. Und das nächste Mal dann beim neuen Projekt oder einem aktuellen Projekt. Guckt doch mal auf meiner Seite, dann seht ihr, was ich alles habe. Und auf Wiedersehen.